The language in the hearings last week was pretty brutal, and a lot of people in that room who should have been your friends really were painting a picture of a program that is almost out of control. And the main charge that was aimed against you was that the aircraft is going to cost way more than it's supposed to acquire, and way more to sustain in service than it should do either. And that's coming from people with an awful lot of figures at their fingertips who should have a fairly good idea of what they're talking about. Now, are these guys completely wrong? And if so, why?
Well, I don't think that I would use the phrase completely wrong. There are estimates as to what the program will cost, and there are assumptions that go into those estimates. What I heard at that hearing was a sound and genuine desire to see improved performance on the Joint Strike Fighter program. I share that view completely, as does everybody in our company. We have had challenges on the program. This is a complicated program architecture. I think the complications on this program are worth it, because in my mind, when I look at the need to recapitalize the family of aircraft that the Joint Strike Fighter will replace, and to support security cooperation partnerships internationally over a 30 or 40 or 50-year horizon, I still believe the Joint Strike Fighter approach, given all its challenge, all its complexity, and all its demands, is the most sophisticated, most effective, and best way to approach this recapitalization. But I clearly understand they want to see a program track and plan. We've got a new baseline in the technical baseline review. We have more realistic cost estimates. We have more resources in place to accomplish the goals that have been laid before us. So notwithstanding the specific use of the language, I understand the intent. With regard to cost, I don't think I heard a single voice express absolute confidence that the airplane's production costs would be unaffordable, or that the sustainment costs would be unaffordable. Current
costs that make the operators go weaker than these?
Well, I think what we're talking about here is an estimate of over $1 trillion in those costs. I have personally heard Dr. Ashton Carter describe that cost estimate as unreliable and one that will not be realized. And there are many actions that all of us can take together, looking at the assumptions that go into the judgments that are associated with the quantification of that cost, to reduce that overall cost over time. That is not cast in concrete. I'll give you an illustration in the near term. I've mentioned to you today that we're running ahead of our flight test program. Last year we ran behind our flight test program.
It's an immensely re-baseline program from where you should be. I take on board that things are moving, they're changing, improving, they're changing from a position so far behind where you should be that it is difficult to have absolute confidence in promises that things are going to be better.
Well, I think that's part of the discussion that you heard unfold at the Senate Armed Services Committee. What do we know today that will give us confidence that the program will track to a plan that we understand? So we now have additional resources that have been provided by both the Department of Defense and the Congress. And I think those resources have been provided in the full light of the challenges that you described, because the airplane's worth it. But the challenges are great, but the recapitalization needs are real, and that we need to double down and focus on executing this program on this baseline. You heard and we heard there won't be another rebaselining of this program. There will not be. We understand that. And we're going to execute to this baseline that we have. The near-term measurements that we have in the test program indicate that we are able to do that, so that the costs that you see are associated with assumptions about productivity and fly rates, and we're achieving or exceeding those assumptions. We've had a production program plan called SOP5, and we have been on that production plan with not much variation for 8 or 9 months now. Those are near-term early tracking signs that the program has stabled, and we're able to do that. The question is, can you do that over time? And that answer will unfold with our execution.